Hello and welcome back. Today, as you can see, I'm jumping off the deep end. I have wanted to work on canvas for the longest time, but in order to get my feet wet, I purchased a Frederick's pad of canvas paper, and it's been niggling at me. And the only time I used it was back in August, and I used similar techniques to what I would use for my acrylic painting on paper, and it is not expressing what I wanted to express on this. So I redid on the back, and as you can see, I used some stencils, and I was a little bit less unhappy with this one, but there again, much too flat from the art that I had in mind. But wouldn't this be a nice journal cover with this as the inside? So I'm thinking along those lines. Well, okay, journal cover aside. I cut myself a piece of foam core, the cheapo variety from Dollar Store, and taped it down with a heavier tack, not exactly low tack, not regular, but in between masking tape. And then, why the yellow, you say? Well, I have noticed that some artists put a first layer down of gesso, some put a first layer down of red. I've noticed that Donna Downey does that. She feels that it adds vibrancy to what comes on top. And for some reason, I was drawn to putting sunshine down. So I'm using my go-to Ceramcoat yellow, and I spread it on with my handy-dandy credit card, let it dry, and here I am. What I have in mind for my background is to color block in some coloring on here, but I want them to be darker because as I build up layers, I want them in turn to become lighter and lighter. So I picked, of course, white and black, and I have on my palette a cerulean, ultramarine, magenta, aqua green, and a nice bright cad yellow. And I noticed in my collection of tube acrylics, almost no green, but I do think there is some darker green up here in my goldens, so maybe just a little chrome oxide up here. We'll see. Now there is no plan, it's particularly not in my mind at this point, for what is going to go down, but other than to just get my darker colors on here. I went through my regular acrylic brushes and picked out the Pitiful Children, and so I'm going to use those and keep them aside for working on acrylic, and of course my plastic palette knife. I'm thinking I'm going to want to begin with a brush because I think I can leave a little bit thicker layer than I would get by spreading with a palette knife. Let's see what happens. Again, no particular plan, and more water than is usually used, but we're off to the races. Let's see, what color shall I put on there too as a starter? and maybe a little magenta, which will turn it a little bit purplish, and a little bit of the green, I'm sorry, a little bit of the yellow shows through the purplish magenta. Maybe some more up here. Clean up. I'm going to use a rag because there'll be a lot of water involved in this brush and I don't want it to thin this paint. So, rag time. Let's have a little Prussian down here. Oh, isn't that delish? And let's add a little bit of white to that, not too much. Some green over here. And as the color moves into the Prussian, it pulls Prussian over, but it doesn't, it does a different thing than one would expect, probably because of the canvas paper. And let's have a little, well, I don't use this color very often, so let's have some up here. Now let's make a real purple with some magenta and ultramarine. Let's have some of that down here. With the yellow underneath it, some of it becomes a bit browny, almost a little bit muddy, but that's okay because it's giving depth as far as I'm concerned. Let's pile on a little bit of purple, a little bit of white here. Just calm things down a little bit. Oh yes. Ah yes. That effect is what this kind of painting is all about. Now if I mix some of my magenta into some of this yellow, I ought to get a nice, yes I am, a nice shade. And you'll notice if I was a totally good girl, I'd be mixing with the palette knife before applying. Not happening. Some rules just cry out to be broken. Whoops, careful now, Carol. See what happens here. Let's get that cleaned. Let's put some more on top of it. There we go. And some pure magenta up here. which should let some of that background sunshine through. And that's all right. Thinking a little bit of this Prussian up here. Nothing bad should happen with the colors that are up here already. A little more cerulean to speak for itself over here. Nope. Not clean enough. There, better. And what here? A little more of that orange. Well, what have I done now? I've put color down. What do I want to do? I wish I knew. Let's see if I can just stroke this up and down and run these together a little bit. And this way. Let's see exactly where we stand here. And I'm liking the so-called mud formed in certain areas because, well, primarily because I'm not a person who dislikes browns. I think they're very nice in their place. So, a little bit of the under yellow showing through rather than the brightness of white. I like what happened over here. And I'm starting to wonder if this might not need a little go of a light coat of brayered on white on top of it, just to calm it down a little bit. Here again, I wish I could take a poll and get your opinion. Yes, it's good. It might be a little too good. Maybe a little pushing back. So, I'm going to work on drying this a bit, and I'll be back, and we'll see what happens with some of my go-to zinc white. Let's see if it will do anything to calm that down. I'll be back. Now, I don't have too much of this left. I'm going to have to replace this bottle, but let's see what happens here now. Yes, just a bit pushed back out of the way. Now, I'm going to let this air dry a bit, and then I'm going to put some sort of an outline for a motif or design on here. That won't take too long. Maybe I'll help it along just a little bit. No, not yet. I'm going to wait a little bit. I'll be back. Well, I'm using my General's China marker in black to put down some lines. And maybe well, let's stop and start. See if we can't make this work a little bit. I need more. Get these out of the way. Let's let some of this purple work a little bit over here. Let's see if we can't get some worked over there. Maybe just a bit over here. And some of this magenta. Maybe up here. Some of this orange definitely in here. Now there is no, as you can notice, there is absolutely no plan here other than to add more color this time with some white worked into it. Again, color, laying down color. blend these in together. This old brush that has seen better days can be scrubbed on here very nicely. Is my ultramarine right there. This is a very unhappy, thick ultramarine. Doesn't like what I'm doing to it, but it's going to have to go with the program. That's just the way it goes. Isn't it wonderful the way these tube colors can be blended and pushed around? None of the hard line worry that you have with watercolor. This is getting to be fun to do. I don't know what we're going to have in the end, but right now this is more fun than I can stand. And that's what our art experience and our learning experiences are all about. Can't wait to get this layer on so that I can get a little bit closer to the play layer. I'm going to finish up doing the exact same thing with these bits, except these, which look like they're starting to want to turn into leaves. So I'll leave those, but the rest of it I'm going to get some color down that I mixed with the white, and I'll be back. Starting to take some dares. These might still be here in the end, and then again maybe not. This vining needs to have a little bit more of a statement, so let's put it in now. As I said, all of what is now here is not necessarily going to make the final cut, but it's giving me kind of a direction to follow, something to lead me. Somewhere. Well, 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 I do believe we're well into the ugly stage. Yes, we are. Okay. Something has to happen somewhere. So let's redefine the original thought. Which seems to have gotten lost. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a very good thing. And I'm just feeling like it's time to play. Therefore, why not now? I think I've been suffering from a little case of fear here. And what happens, all I have to do is cover it up with something else, or nothing else. When finger painting starts to feel attractive, why not just do it? Huh. As you can see, I really discovered that none of this has to be considered permanent. Oh, my. More paint. More paint. Okay. I usually wish I knew what I was doing, but I'm quite satisfied not knowing today. I guess it's fear. Fear of the unknown. Oh, don't you look like a pork chop? This won't do. It's a little better. No pork chops on the vine. And I'm thinking yes. This has to be the dark side. Well, I do believe I'm going to stop now, let this air dry, and think about it, probably a lot. Because this isn't turning into anything yet in my mind, but it's a little bit closer. This has started me on the path to finding out that I have to stop coloring within the lines. I have to, yes, not color within the lines. We're going to let this dry, and I believe I'm going to try something. I'm going to put a piece of cling wrap over this plate and see if there's any life left in it when I come back. Learning, learning. I'll be back. Wish me luck. Wish my muse luck. She's really got to start to kick in anytime soon. Save my bacon. Well, I have had a good think about this, and I've decided not to give up. I also learned something. This was in the freezer with a piece of cling wrap over the top overnight, and the paint is nice and ready to go. And so I'm going to just hold my nose and jump off the edge of the board, and I know that this is going to be a rather long video, so I do hope that you will, I'm going to leave it all together, and I do hope that you will pause, turn it off, and come back, because I think for some reason that this needs to be left together, and I'm afraid that if I walk away from it, I'll keep running. So, I've gotten out another finer brush. It's kind of worn. Oh, it's a Winsor Newton number 3, I believe, or 8, it could be. It's not a very fine quality brush, so I've decided to add that to my acrylic collection. I'm just following along on these original China marker lines. Now, I'm thinking that the yellow needs a bit of a pop, so I'm going to add some of my cadmium yellow light on top of those flowers, so-called flowers or fingerprints, or whatever the truth of that matter might be. Let's see what happens if I... Ah, yes. Add a little over here, a little over here, and see if we can't counterbalance that white from this side a little bit. Not too much. They are here, so we might as well let them speak for themselves a little bit. some of this medium magenta. I'm going to put on top of the Quin magenta that I had the last time. And there is quite a difference there. I'm needing something on that new stem that I added. And some white. Well, this does take your eye off that center dead space that I had here. And I am so loving playing with finger paint. It's just delicious. It even feels nice. And I think another one down here at the bottom, running off the page. Going to add some purple to these whites over on this side, and think more about the yellow ones on this side. There we go. A little bit of light violet. I'm going to play a little on the light violet, and I will be back because I have to give this a think over here. Well, why I am painting with the brush handle is beyond me. But I seem to be doing that. And it seems to be pulling down these little so-called yellow flowers, giving them some direction. I'm trying to use the colors that have already been used before here. I am learning so much on this piece. I think I'm going to dry this a bit, and I'll be back. Well, I think I might finally have satisfied myself with this one. I have learned so much. I cannot even begin to think about it. It's wonderful. But doing it once is not a solution. So, more and more practice will be just the ticket on this. At the end, one falls back on tried and true, but the procedure has been one packed full of learning. And I think, yes, I'm declaring this a learning experience that has been packed full of scary moments and what will I do and how will I do it and did I bite off more than I can chew, and of course the answer is yes. But I'm going to remove this tape, dry this a little bit, and I'll be back to think about this. Well, needless to say, I shall be delving deeply into these books, Acrylic Expressions by Stacy Swider, maybe, Bold Expressive Painting by Annie Gonzalez. Abstracts in acrylic and ink. And again, in Flora Bowley's Brave Intuitive Painting, the book which three and a half or so years ago changed my life. It shook my world. So I'm going to be studying up before I throw myself off this cliff again. But here it is with the tape removed. And it is incredible what having that border does for a piece of your work. And now let's give my pilot the ultimate test. And there it goes. There it goes. Oh, I love these pens. Now, this is not completely dry and will not be for a while, but if you have enjoyed watching this learning experience, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share with a friend, and I would appreciate your subscribing to my channel. I honestly did not think this was going to end up looking quite like this, but here it is. Experiment, learning experience, whatever, #1, and Carol's homework. Bye now.